now, and now we go back to cinema, and we're going to talk about A Real Pain. This is written by and directed and starring Jesse Eisenberg. And so this is a film with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, and they play a couple of cousins in America of Polish ancestry. So their grandmother was their shared grandmother was Polish, and she was a Holocaust survivor, and she's recently died. And when the film starts first kicks off, you meet Jason Eisenberg playing a Jason Eisenberg type character. So essentially, yeah, leaving his house, has like a shirt that's halfway buttoned up, has a backpack, has a baseball hat, is phoning up a is he's neurotically phoning up his cousin to see whether his cousin is going to be at the airport, because you have to check in about 3 times, and he leaves about 15 different voicemails before he actually gets to the airport to tell his cousin. Is kind of like, oh yeah, there's traffic. Just so you want to know, you want to leave a little bit early. There's traffic. Oh yeah, the traffic's cleared up. I'm going to be there later than I thought. That kind of thing. So far, so much, very much what you've seen from Jesse Eisenberg. Then you get to the airport and you meet his cousin, Kieran Culkin, who is Benji. And his cousin is like the opposite end of the scale. So Jason Eisenberg is very Jason Eisenberg. Kieran Culkin is very, if you've seen Succession, he is very, what's his name of that character in that show? Roman. Is he? No, yeah, he's
Yes.
Roman. He is Roman. Yeah, yeah, Roman Roy. He's very, very much like that. So he's gregarious. He's big. He's loud. He sort of like says things, and he says things. He insults people, but he does it in a sort of like a jokey way, and he kind of gets away with it because he's kind of cheeky, chappy kind of guy. And you have this whole thing where they become this odd couple because they are going to Poland because they booked on a sort of like a heritage tour because they want to get closer to their grandmother who left Poland. Left Poland, obviously, well, during the Second World War, ended up in America, and they never really knew about that part of her life. So they want to go back, and they wanted to go and trace her steps, almost to say, in Poland, and sort of connect to that part of their heritage. And in that, it reminded me a little bit of a film from Liev Schreiber starring Elijah Wood called, oh good lord, the name of it just went out of my head. I'll remember it in a second. But yeah, but that it was a very similar thing, but with Ukraine. But then it just becomes an odd couple thing. They meet their tour group, which is led by Will Sharp, who some people might recognize from The White Lotus, or I personally recognize him from a TV show called Defending the Guilty, which got cancelled during COVID. I only had one season. Find it on BBC. I actually quite I thought it was really really good. So he plays the tour guide, who is a non-Jewish man from his accent. I would say Yorkshire. He's a non-Jewish English man who, but he goes around and he's studied all these things to tell him all about like the Jewish history of Poland, the Jewish history of Warsaw, and all that. And it's about them reconnecting because it comes to the fact that they haven't met with each other for a while. It's a kind of film where a lot of reviews will probably use the words generational trauma in them because it's about how they deal with this, how they deal with the past, how they reconnect to each other, and how they deal with the fact that, like, one of them is just kind of like uptight, is the responsible one of them is the loose cannon that goes around everywhere. But as it goes along, I think one of the things, because this could be a very one note film, just from that description you could feel like you've already seen the film. What comes up is that there's these little wrinkles about the characters, and there's this little unexpectedly effective emotional beats that come up where you find out things about Benji, or find out things about David, or David expresses, as someone who's really, really buttoned up, has a moment where he actually expresses some real emotion and is actually quite effective. And then you have Benji, who is all emotion, quite frankly. He's sort of like all emotion, no filter. And then he has a moment of restraint that shows that there's a little bit more going on beneath the surface. And I think that that's what makes this film work, is the interplay between Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. Those two and the odd couple thing, it makes it work. And then you have other bits, which it's trying to deal with. I feel like it's trying to deal with like heavy topics. Like there's a bit where they go to a Holocaust, they go to a concentration camp. They go to a concentration camp and they try and do it, but it's almost kind of say that's not the point of the film, but it does inform the characters in the film. And I thought it was well observed. There's something that they do when they go on the pilgrimage to their grandmother's house, to the last place she lived in Poland before she left and went to America. There's something that they do that just made me think a little bit like what you were saying about We Live in Time. I was like, oh my God, how selfish is that? That's so self-centered. Only an American would go to somebody else's country and feel like they could do that. So And I was so happy when a character shows up and tells them exactly that. I was like, yes, thank you, Jesse Eisenberg, for at least being observant. But anyway, I've talked too long. Holly, what did you think?
I thought very much the same. I thought Kieran Culkin was beyond perfect for the part. I don't think anybody
It,
else could have played that part.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He was just, it must have been written for him. It was
Apparently he pretty much dropped out about 2 weeks before they were supposed to start shooting because he didn't think he could do it. He didn't think it was right for him. And Emma Stone, who is one of the producers of the film, talked him down from a ledge and said, "No, you should do it." And now he's winning all the awards.
because he was, I thought, superb. Um, it was a very well constructed film. I gather it was also possibly the only film that's ever been allowed to film in an actual concentration camp.
I mean, they do have things
Very
where
in Poland anyway.
yeah. I mean, I think they do have things at the beginning where they say like the Warsaw Film Council was involved in this.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's
Yeah, and it was done through very complicated negotiation and is almost unheard of, and was agreed specifically because of how they would handle
yeah.
it and the fact that it wasn't a film about glorifying or
It's
the
handled
Holocaust.
it's
It
handled
was,
very sensitively.
and it's a really beautifully shot film.
Mm,
There's a particular scene, well, it's two scenes that involve driving across the Polish countryside, and they so perfectly capture that countryside and a movement in and out, and the transitions. It is a really beautifully done film.
yeah, yeah, I
It's,
would agree.
it is a delight to watch. Yeah,
Quiet,
I
quiet,
thought it was
Oscar
great.
fanfare.
Yeah, I thought they did a really, really good job of it. I thought, you know, well scripted. I also had Jennifer Grey in it,
It did.
which was, yes,
It's kind of
reasonably prominently, and I had no idea it was her.
well, that's the problem with. I mean, Jennifer Grey has very well documented, I would say, botched plastic surgery, which
Yeah.
she
Nobody
looks.
puts baby in a corner because you wouldn't
Yeah,
know if it was baby anymore.
you wouldn't have a
Yeah.
clue that it was baby. Like because so I mean my wife didn't know anything about that. She didn't know anything about like Jennifer Grey and so I showed her a picture of Jennifer Grey in Dirty Dancing. I showed her a picture of Jennifer Grey
Now,
after her
yeah.
surgeries and she was like that is not the same person. and,
You really have to
and
look at her to see the sort of the eyes. It's like, is it her?
yeah, you have to look at the
Yeah,
eyes
the
and
eyes are the
and
same,
I'll
but
tell you there's some times when I've looked and looked and looked and I have become convinced that somebody got rid of Jennifer Grey and just replaced it with a different person because because it and she says it herself. She says it like it was a mistake and that she says her own family didn't recognize her and then it kind of I won't say ruined, but it definitely slowed her career down because everybody wanted to cast that woman in Dirty Dancing and then she would show up and they'd be like, "Where is she?" And, yeah, but yeah, it's yeah, Jennifer Grey, isn't it? And one of the things that as well, I quite like the tour group. I love the fact that they have the okay because this is a film that could very easily like what they were talking about filming the concentration camp. It could very easily be trauma exploitation. It could very be like Jewish trauma exploitation, and that's the kind of film that I've kind of had enough of. I feel like there's enough of it's kind of like when you have a film that focuses on slavery. And I'm like, look, you have to give me something else. You just can't show me a film that says, "Ooh, slavery was bad, wasn't it? Oh, let's watch some bad people get brutalized." You can't just give me that. And I think and I was worried that this film would be a bit like that. And then when they meet the tour group, and then you find that there is actually a Rwandan as part of the tour group who survived the genocide in Rwanda, but when he got to Winnipeg, converted to Judaism because he found some solace within the religion. I was like, now this is different. I was like, this is a and he isn't just window dressing as well. He has a significant part to play. He has like significant reams of dialogue, and I was just kind of like, oh my God, just hearing that accent in a film like this is yes. So yeah, I quite like this film. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
I would also give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
It is a very solid 4. This will sound bad, that was kind of, I expected it to be better, and I can't tell you how or why, simply because
That
in my head it was going to be so blow away amazing, and it was still really, really good. But I had it on a higher pedestal in my head than it could
agree.
realistically have achieved.
I don't know about pedestal, but I agree with you 100%. I know what you mean. I was expecting it to be better, especially because of a lot of the buzz it's been getting and a lot of the
Yeah.
chat about it. I was expecting it to be better, and in the end, I was
I
like,
thought it would
okay,
be
yeah,
this
cool.
year's I thought it'd be this year's The Holdovers,
Yeah,
and it didn't do that. But then
it's
why should
very
it have
good,
been
if not
trying to do the
excellent.
same?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Would
very, very
thoroughly
good.
not recommend.
It's very, very good. It's just not excellent.
Yeah.
It's a bit like I was watching. Okay, total. I mean, Sean's not even here, and I'm still going off on tangents. So total tangent. I was watching Toy Story 4 over the Christmas period, and Toy Story 4 is a film that a lot of people quibble about. Like, should this film exist? Should this film exist? Toy Story 4 should it exist? Because Toy Story 3 was just Toy Story 3 is excellent, and I was watching Toy Story 4 going, this is actually a very, very good film. The only problem Toy Story 4 has is that Toy Story 3 exists. And that's kind of like what you're sort of saying. This is a very good film. It's just not excellent. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we will move on.